Hey Brian, how are you doing today?
Hey, Chuck, doing well. Thanks for having me back. How you doing?
Doing well. I want to thank everybody that's out there today. If you're watching and you want to, just throw a comment down and say hi to us. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah, I pondered it all week, and I thought, oh, this will be really cool. This sounds like it'll be really easy to convey a thought process. And the more I thought about it, the more complex it got. It's gotten a little nuts. So I'm not entirely sure where the conversation is going to go at this point.
Here's our first one. Dana working on her French. Preparing for. Speaking of all in, being preparing for Masters Worlds in Roubaix, France next year.
Very good. Bonjour.
Darnell says good evening. So he's joining us from here in the Maryland area.
Good
Good
to
to
have
see
you.
you. I'm not quite sure if he's still on the bike or not. I think last week he watched a little bit of being on the bike.
Well,
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting way to get through a training session anyway.
So, yeah. So being all in. Uh, where do we start with this? I, uh, I guess the first one is, with my experience. We talked last week about goal setting and how do you want to go about setting goals.
Sure.
And then we talked a little bit about expectation management. And all in is one of those items that runs really, really close to expectation management. Um, you know,
Yeah, agreed to a very large point. I think having touched on the goal setting, that's the basis for determining how all in is all in. I think it's more of a existential question as far as what is all in at this point. This is where I got stuck all week. Is all in, or is all in enough, or is all in too much? And I think in some instances, for specific things, all in is all in. If you're going to go do a squat workout, all in is all in. If you have to crawl back up the stairs after the squat workout, I would consider that all in. Did you put yourself into the hospital? That's probably a little too much all in. And do we do every single thing we can possibly do to achieve our goals? And the loftier the goals, obviously, the more all in is.
right, right. When it's funny because Dan and I talked, and one of the things that she had talked about is she's like, well, it's actually a constrained optimization problem. And what she means by that from an economics perspective is like, all in, it'd be great to be able to say that we're going to move to Tretzlertown. We're going to, buy Strom bikes, in our case, buy Velo Flyers, and, hire a nutritionist and do all these other things besides hiring myself. But we do have fiscal constraints, and we may have time constraints, and we may have other constraints. So it's more of this constraint optimization problem that within the realm of what you have and what your abilities are you doing everything within that sphere?
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think that's the crux of the issue is that you know you have to eat, you have to go to work in most cases, unless you're a highly pampered cycling coach. Uh, but you have to buy groceries, you have to spend time with your family, you have all of these outside responsibilities that have nothing to do with that silly bike race 6 months down the road that is silly to everybody else but not so silly to you. And I think it's like you said, it's an optimization of what you can do and how far you're willing to take that. And you're kind of dancing on a razor edge on a lot of those things, because anytime you have more than one thing that you're trying to focus on, by its very nature, you have to compromise a little bit with something. So, and I think that's really what it kind of boils down to is, where are your compromise limits? Where are your goal limits? And what are you willing, to, in a lot of ways, give up on, and push yourself to the level that you are as all in as you can be.
Yes. It's also, there's that mix between, your actual physical and mental side of the house too.
Sure.
Because all in mentally can be almost as big as a challenge when fiscally, time wise, and that type of stuff. So where do we go from this? How do we attack this in a logical manner?
I think you go back to your goal setting. I think that's the basis for all of it. What am I trying to accomplish? A little bit of reverse engineering. What am I trying to accomplish? Where am I currently at? What do I currently need to do to move that process forward? To be, where is my lack of commitment to a thing harming that end goal? I think is where we kind of need to start and progress from there and evaluate, is giving up, I don't know, is giving up pizza really worth, going out and winning that once a year crit in downtown, and those are the questions you have to ask yourself. What's worth it? What do I give up? What do I change? How much am I willing to suffer and put the time in versus the end result? Is it actually worth it for that point?
Yeah. I guess what I find when you said that, I wonder how many people actually understand that tie between that pizza and winning that race in 6 months. It's just
it's a surprisingly big one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that whole idea that it's not just a training plan. It's the entire ecosystem. It's nutrition, it's recovery, it's mental preparation, it's fiscal considerations. It's that entire ecosystem.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things that most of us don't really think about. I mean, I can tell you that a lot of times with my clients, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've got these goals. Well, do you know what it takes?" Well, yeah, I've got this extra, 45 minutes. Yeah, okay. But, if you're a time trialist, and you're wanting to race, cat 2, if your watts per kilo is less than 4, you're not competitive. I can write the training plan to get your watts to whatever level it needs to be for the most part, but you got to help me on the kilo part. And I hate to say it, abs are not made in the gym. They're made in the kitchen.
Yep.
And losing that extra, 10 kilos is not done on the bike.
Well, it's simple physics, right? So it's significantly easier to drop a few pounds that we're probably, the vast majority of us are probably carrying around, just because we live in the United States and we're kind of an overweight country.
Right.
There are exceptions to the rule, obviously, but that's low hanging fruit, really. Right. It's, it takes no gym membership. It doesn't take 2 hours a day in the gym. It doesn't take 4 hours on the bike to cut out some of the things that are adding to that extra weight. Ergo, dropping your watts per, dropping your kilo part of your watts per kilo, and subsequently raising your watts per kilo. I guess I didn't say that terribly well, but basically, you lose weight, your watts per kilo go up.
No, absolutely. The number of clients that I've talked to And, if at their same weight, we would have to go from 270 watts to 330 watts to get to 4 watts per kilo.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are already a Cat 2 or a Cat 3, that means they've been riding for a while. So it's not like they'll get this really big thing. But the kilo part is I don't want to say fairly simple, because I don't want to make it sound that way, but the kilo part is a much easier lift than that increasing that wattage part.
Well,
when you're talking, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's simple in concept. It's difficult in actual application. Yeah.
Concur. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions that a lot of athletes have is that being all in means training harder, when it's a much broader picture. And I guess that's kind of the view that I look at it.
Well, and it's interesting, because that was one of the things that occurred to me as well. So it's not so much the big things. It seems like, going out, everybody feels like they train. I mean, you can recognize whether you've done the work or not. If I'm sitting here having a conversation with you instead of being on the bike or in the gym, I better make up the bike in the gym, because I'm losing that opportunity. We all know the big things, right? We don't know the handful of Hershey's Kisses that we grabbed at the office lunchroom. We don't think about those things. We don't think about the couple beers I had with the guys watching the football game the other day. We don't think about the things that are going to harm that big work that we're doing, because relatively speaking, it's probably a lot easier for me to, and I'm a tortilla chip fanatic, right? It's probably easier for me to just walk by the Mexican food restaurant that's going to have the tortilla chips, because I'm going to basically stick my face in the bowl, than it is to spend 3 hours, doing a training session or a gym workout, or, a dynamic adaptation workout or something along those lines. Putting the fork down is a lot easier than picking the weight up.
Yep.
And those are the pieces that are neglected in a lot of senses, as well as thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're trying to accomplish, I had a rider I was having a conversation with the other day, and basically the conversation was, I'm doing this training work with my partner. My partner is sketchy, really uncomfortable. We're on a bank track. We're trying to do this stuff. And the reality of the situation is the cost benefit for that is not going to be high enough to justify the potential, of having the people around you that lack some inherent skills taking you out, compared to the little bit of a fitness bump you're going to get, in November, where it really doesn't matter for, this particular individual anyway. So there's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of nuanced things that you have to think about, in addition to the obvious, did I go to the gym? Did I work really hard? Did I get on the bike? Did I work really hard? There's all kinds of things that have to be thought about all the time in regards to this all-in concept. Are you really all in?
So Keith dropped in from Florida, summed it up pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. What you do off the bike, for sure.
And considering he lives in Florida, it's a whole lot easier to be on the bike.
Yeah, I think it's about to snow here, so they're calling for snow this evening. So Keith, I'm a little bit envious at the moment. I prefer sunshine over lack thereof, but we all have our cross to bear.
So we kind of threw in there when we were talking before we went live. You brought up that all in could be kind of like 3 phases.
Mm.
What were those again?
So the conclusion I came to pondering this is there's all in, which, is I'm going to do leg extensions to failure. That's all in, all in. There's all in, enough all in. That is, did I do enough to achieve my goal? Not go bankrupt, not get divorced, not have my children hate me, all of those things, all of those outside extraneous issues away from cycling that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Did I do enough? Was I all in enough to accomplish the goal? And then there's all in, too much all in. Am I doing this workout simply because I like riding around in the track and I'm running a very big risk of taking myself out and injuring myself, thus failing to be all in, because you're not all in when you're 8 weeks in a sling from a broken collarbone. So those seem to be the three factors, and they're interchangeable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think, going back to like my military background, that's like the tactical level all in. And
right.
when we look at like the strategic level, the big all in, I guess I see the all ins are the folks who really have kind of set their sights on, World Cup. They've set their sights on Olympics. They've set their sights, and that is when, you really have to be, you're giving everything up.
Mm-hmm.
You're to do that. I like your all in good enough. I just wish it was broke down into like good enough for some things, but not good enough for others.
Sure. And that was the problem. This is why I have brick marks on my forehead at this point, because how do you define that? How do you quantify that as an individual? That's a completely personal thing. I know what for me is all in versus all in good enough, and as far as being completely all in, if you're, I can only imagine what Michael Phelps did to achieve the level of success he did. I can only imagine the all in that it took to get to that level, on top of a bunch of really good genetics. There's a risk there as well. That's all in too much sometimes, right? You've got all kinds of mental issues. You have no social life. You know nothing but 4 hours of butterfly a day. You don't,
right.
You don't have anything. And I think it's important to have something to step away from that all in, because all in can be completely all consuming, and the rest of your world goes to hell in a handbasket at that point.
Yeah, that's why I think I like going back to Dana's kind of that constrained optimization problem.
Yeah.
And it's taking what your goal is. Keith just said that Keith just said all in means you have no life.
Yeah, exactly.
I like looking at an aim or a goal and saying, okay, in order to achieve this, these are the all-in things that I need to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody came to me today and said either A, I want to run a marathon in less than 4 hours, or B, I want to do a Hincapie Grand Fondo and I want to do that in less than whatever. Those are fairly easy, and all in for that is basically just kind of executing your training plan.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Not much more than that.
Right.
If somebody comes and says, hey, Coach Abers, I'm Chuck Kyle. At some point in time in my 50s, I'd like to be on a podium at a national championship. That's a significantly different requirement.
Well, it's a significantly different requirement than a God help somebody, a 4-hour marathon. That just sounds terrible,
doesn't it?
But, and then the question you have to ask is, Coach Kyle comes up to Coach Abers and says, "Hey, Coach, I want to be a track sprinter. What does that entail?" Well, it entails all kinds of stuff that, in all of your years of cycling, you didn't do. because it had absolutely, sprinting is one of those weird things. It's like curling. I have no idea how to guide a 43-pound block of granite down a sheet of ice. There's a very specific skill set for that. There's athleticism, and then there's a very specific skill set that has to be developed. So that whole process has to be all in for quite some time, because it takes a while, right? You not only have to get very specific with the objectives that you're trying to accomplish, but you also have to learn all those techniques. You have to change your training protocols. You have to get strong. You have to get fast. You have to do all these crazy things that coming from a cycling background, you don't have to do
right
as much.
Yeah, I think yes. Yeah, exactly.
We should leave the two of us out of this whole thing.
Right. I think there's some other things, like for instance, I've got an athlete right now that's going to do an event and a race. And the race is the type of race it is there's no real training that they can do specifically for that event in their location. So 4 times before the actual event, they're going to drive 4.5 hours to the course and ride the course. And so, that's going to take, that's a 12-hour day just to go do a 2-hour bike ride.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those, what's it look like to be all in.
Yeah. I think that's pretty all in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think another one is that if you live in a climate in which, other than you getting on a fat tire bike and trying to do intervals in the snow, it's that whole idea is like, look, I need to train during the winter. I need to get a gym membership. I need to get a Wahoo kicker. I need to be able to do those things. I need to, not have the reason I can't do it because of something that easily can be solved.
Sure.
So I think that's another one. And then the last one I think is kind of a characteristic of all in is looking at your goal, understanding what all in is for your goal. And then from there, understanding that you're going to commit to a comprehensive set of requirements that include nutrition and flexibility and strength and gym and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's an interesting point, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think one of the challenges that I've had, and I'm sure you had as well, is convincing your athletes what all in for that particular goal really is. Right? You've got somebody that comes along and goes, I want to win a national championship in pursuit. Okay, great, cool. That's a rather lofty objective that you're chasing. Do you know what Chloe Dygert did to be able to ride a 4K pursuit? Do you have any comprehension of the amount of work and time and effort that it would actually take to do that? And it seems like everyone I have this conversation with that's starting out, after a couple of years of chasing the same goal, for years and years, and I've been chasing the same goal for decades now.
Right.
You get a pretty good idea of, okay, well, I'm going to tweak this, or I'm going to just turn that up a smidge or turn that down a smidge, and you're close, right? But when you start out, when I started out, I had no idea what it took to be a national champion. I just thought, well, you ride your bike fast and cool.
Right.
A little bit more than that. And I think this is where talking with somebody, find a coach, find somebody that's, been doing this forever, have those conversations about what that's going to take. I think that's the part that people miss out on. I want to be a grand chess master. Well, I should probably learn how to play chess a little bit better than I do at this point for that to happen.
Right.
How much better? I've got no ideas. I just know that they're significantly better at playing chess than I am. My son, smokes me in about 4 moves. So that I never even saw coming. Find out what that, before you actually commit to that goal, and it's managing expectations. But if you don't have an understanding of what the process is, you can't manage expectations. You just simply can't, because there's no identifier to say that you're even on the right path at that point.
Yeah. I'll tell you one that I personally deal with quite a bit with a lot of my my athletes is like Matt Fitzgerald has a great book. It's called Racing Weight.
Mm-hmm.
And in Racing Weight, you can flip it open and it will tell you at an elite level what is the body composition of rowers and sprinters and runners and cyclists and blah, blah, blah. And you can extrapolate that out to your age group, to your gender, to whatever. And if you're looking there, and the book says that for a master's athlete to be a track sprinter, you need to be somewhere between 16 and 18% body fat, and you're stepping on a scale and you're seeing 27.
Pretty good indicator there.
That at least you kind of, there's a direction that that you've got to go in. I mean, and that can be one of those all-in things that it's tough. And that kind of brings us into kind of like the behaviors and kind of the habits of somebody that's all in. I remember you and I were talking, and I don't remember if you told me or I told you, but there was a meme that said champions. So what was it? Champions figure out how to get it done. Mm-hmm. Here's all the excuses that we can list up, and at the very bottom, it's like, I didn't have enough time. I had a meeting. I didn't feel good, whatever. And the bottom line was champions figure out how to get it done. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, that you have to get it done. I mean, it's like, like Keith just, said, it means you have no life. Well, not if your goals and your expectations are at a level that, just your list of things that you need to get done, you get done. Mm-hmm. You and I don't have to be on the bike 4 hours a day, every day, 6 days a week, because we don't require the aerobic endurance to do such a thing.
Correct. Right.
However, if yours and my goal was to win the out near where you used to live, the Gila Mountains, Tour of the Gila.
Tour of Gila, yeah.
Yeah, to win the Tour of the Gilas, you needed to have a training plan that put you on the bike 3 or 4 hours a day.
Sure.
For at least a good build or two good build phases. So that's a little bit different. What can you think of anything that are kind of like the habits and the characteristics?
Well, I think, I think one of the things I do personally is, not only make my bed right after I get up, just because I've, the whole thing you've actually accomplished. You make your bed, and the first thing
because some SEAL admiral said you're supposed to.
Yeah, because you said you're supposed to, right? But the first thing I do when I hit the floor, the feet hit the floor, I drop down and start banging out push-ups. And I've got a daily morning routine that, I do push-ups and pull-ups and body weight squats and some planks and some configuration thereof. I'll change it up every once in a while so it's not completely boring. But I damn sure don't want to do push-ups as soon as I hit the floor. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. That's silly, Right. But it also reinforces that I have work that needs to be done today, and I'm going to start that work right here, right now, the instant my feet hit the floor. And it sounds a bit silly in a lot of ways, but I find that it really helps with the whole concept of, okay, now that I've done all of that, cool, I can make a cup of coffee, I can, write the weightlifting plan down in the weightlifting journal, load up the backpack, walk to the gym, and start my day. And once
Shouldn't
I've
you be
got
doing
that,
air squats along the way?
no, you can stop that, but lunge steps preferably all the way to the gym. So, which adds another. I mean, you're talking about saving time. Well, that saves time. I got to walk to the gym anyway. I may as well do lunge steps while I'm doing it with 25 pounds worth of stuff in a pack. So, but that's the thing. You have to have a routine. You have to have a rhythm. I think I certainly do. I need that. I need that rhythm of my whole day is it planned out in my head the night before. I'm going to get up, I'm going to knock out all these silly push-ups and pull-ups. I'm going to jump in the shower, I'm going to pour a cup of coffee, I'm going to enjoy a cup of coffee, I'm off to the gym, I'm done with the gym. All right, what do I have for the bike today? Is it is going to be a watt bike session? Is it going to be a trainer session? Do I actually get to go out and take my fat tire and do efforts in the snow? All of that stuff. But having, back to eating an elephant, that's a big goal I have sitting at the other end of this year, the other end of this season, the 2025 season. It's a lot to take in unless you do it just a tiny little piece at a time. And those tiny little pieces start at the beginning of the day, every day. And if you develop that habit of just knuckling down and doing the stuff that you said you were going to do the night before and just do it, after a while, it becomes habit. It's like eating a chicken, a rotisserie chicken with, a big Ginsu cleaver. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Leaning over the counter. It becomes such a habit that you don't even think about it anymore. I pull a chicken breast out of the air fryer and go, wow, chicken again, yay. And before I know it, the chicken's gone. I'm washing the plate, I'm throwing it into the dish, rinsing the plate off, throwing it in the dishwasher, and I'm already off to my next thing without really even noticing that I did something that if I'd taken the wrong approach to, I would have despised by now.
Right. So Dana says that when you're going to the gym, you should be doing squat hops to get there. So
squat hops. I'll give that a shot.
So, we normally tell people we're going to be on 30 minutes. I think I want to go about 5 minutes over because I do think that there's, we talk about this, but I think there's some application to an all-in concept when it comes to something other than just the bike and competition. And I think you kind of played talking about it, just these type of things that once you get into a habit of doing. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, thinking about earlier, it's like, all in, what are things that you should be all in, type of things. Some people all in means something they're doing for work. It could be all in for relationships. I mean, there's these other things that kind of play in that realm. And I think that's one I want to kind of think about. It's just, the habits that we have on the bike, in the gym, the nutrition, and how those can play over into life and kind of play it that way. I know I'm getting kind of philosophical there, but
well, it's all the same thing though. I mean, you should be, at least while you're, and I suppose there's a caveat there, but if you're going to work, you should be all in for what you're doing, right? That's your job. You should be all in for that, with the caveat that, when the workday is done, you put it aside and, you're all in on your family and relationship time, after you've done an hour and a half on Zwift first.
Nope. Training Peaks virtual.
Training Peaks virtual. I haven't played with it yet. I've got to get a smarter trainer than the one I have currently. So I will endeavor to do that. That is on my list of things to do that I haven't done to be all in. But I, I have a mountain bike that I can go ride in the snow too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think those habits should carry between one segment of your life and another. I think to be all in life, uh, to not be all in life is kind of just wasting time.
Yep.
You should endeavor to be all in with every aspect of your life, and I think making those habits in one segment should carry over to the next segment and into the next segment and into the next, and then pretty soon you're taking the trash out, without somebody yelling at you to take the trash out, because it's just simply one of those things that needs to be done, and you should be all in about it. You're all of those things. I mean, there's 1,000 examples of what all in is, and it's the same stuff.
And that was kind of what I was thinking, is like, if you can get into the all in mindset, and then you have the learned discipline,
Mm-hmm.
the planning, the ability to reframe challenges. Once you get into that mindset, just taking that template and moving it from cycling, from the track, to work, to relationships, I just see that they all come together, and that's when you truly get that balance. And I always hated the terms work-life balance, because that almost sounded like you had to have a 50-50.
Right.
and I don't believe that. So I just think that that's something that it's a principle that we can kind of carry forward like that.
Agree. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly spot on. And I think a work-life balance. No, everything you should do should be, as close to 100% of the best of your ability as possible. If I'm going to paint a wall or make a Reuben sandwich, it's going to be the best Reuben sandwich or the best paint job on the wall I can possibly do, simply because you get into that habit, and anything subpar to that becomes unacceptable.
Right.
I'm all in favor of an all-in lifestyle.
Yep. All right. So we went about 8 minutes over. Don't want to keep people much longer. So any closing thoughts?
With me? No, I think this makes an interesting segue into next week's topic on, I don't know, how about nutrition? Let's talk about nutrition next week.
Let's talk about nutrition next week.
Cool.
Sure, we don't want to talk about nutrition before Thanksgiving?
No, we catch everybody while they're all guilty with Thanksgiving. That's the key.
Protein first.
Protein first.
So, yes. But thanks again for your time tonight and your insight. This was a fun one. This was interesting.
I enjoyed it immensely. Thank you again for having me. And I enjoy our conversations for sure. And
Coach, let you know I'm all in.
As am I, Coach.
Have a great one, man.
Take care.
Thanks everybody for showing up. We will post out on Monday what our next topic will be. I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. What day do you think we ought to do? If you have an opinion of which day of the week would be best for you all, drop it down in the comments below. But we'll let everybody know. Thanks for showing up, and Brian, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Chuck, and Dana as well, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Have a great one. See you.